This is a Porsche 911 GT3 RS, and it is probably the best driver's car in the world. If you want to own one though, there are a few hurdles that might potentially get in your way. If you want one of these, you're going to have to go and ask the bank for £192,600, and that's before you've added any options on. This one has got a few options, and I'll run through them with a list on my telephone. On the assumption that you are going to want some options, perhaps, for example, you might want to paint it a different colour, and that would involve getting a paint to sample colour. Well, that comes at a cost of £12,564. Maybe you'd want some forged aluminium wheels. Well, they come at a cost as well, and the cost is £2,285. And perhaps you want to go the extra mile and get what's called the Weissach pack, which this car has, indicated with logos on the seats, slightly better suspension geometry, slightly more aggressive setup, and some extra trick parts to make it perform even better on track. Well, it does come at a cost, £29,600. Now, those options alone, well, that's going to turn this from a £194,000 car into a £234,000 car. And that's a lot of money. It's a word that I'm fairly sure I've invented. But cars like this, well, they welcome explainership, and that is the requirement to explain things to non-car people. C2 car people like you and I, we know why there's a big wing on the back and why there are air scoops and why there are vents on the bonnet. But to your Auntie Joan, your Nanny Pat, and to Jack and Diane from 2 doors down, well, they won't know. And you'll have to explain why there are big vents on the wings, why your alloy wheels have holes in them, why there are blades along the side of your car, and why there are big gaping holes in the back, and what on earth this big flat panel at the back's for. And then if they happen to look into the car, you'll have to explain why the door handles are made of fabric, why the seats look like that, and why there's a climbing frame in the back. And believe you me, after a while, it gets tiring. But then there's a third hurdle to GT3 RS ownership, and I mean, well, it's more of a wall. Let's say you've got, let's meet in the middle, £200,000 in the bank, and you're ready to commit to one of these. You're willing to go through explainership and explain why there is a big flat panel at the back, why your bonnet's got holes in it, and why the seats look like that. And also explain to Jack and Diane from 2 doors down why it has to sound like that at 7 in the morning. You can't actually buy one of these. Well, not really. If you were to walk into a Porsche dealership as a first-time customer and ask for a GT3 RS, you'll be welcomed with a very polite smile, but a little shake of the head. You see, Porsche reserve the right to sell GT3 RSs to their most esteemed customers, and by that I mean customers that have already bought a lot of other Porsche models. And they do so, I believe in fairness, to stop people from walking into a showroom for the first time, paying £200,000 for a car, and then immediately trying to sell it for twice as much money online. So, you can't have one. Basically, that's it. Sorry. However, I might have found a solution in tandem with potentially owning one of these, because you can't. In fact, I might have found two cars. Come with me, I'll take you for a drive in something similar, but more yellow. Porsche 911 Carrera T. And yes, okay, I know, comparing a Carrera T to a GT3 RS is a little bit like comparing a BMW 420d M Sport to an M4 competition, but that only really matters to people like you and I. To everybody else, to Auntie Joan, to Nanny Pat, to Jack and Diane from 2 doors down, they're not going to know, and they're probably not going to care either. So who are we trying to impress here? You see, to Auntie Joan, Nanny Pat, and to Jack and Diane from down the road, what they are going to know is that it's a Porsche 911. In the same way that they'll probably know a GT3 RS is a Porsche 911. In fact, everybody in the world will know that this is a Porsche 911 because everybody does. I'm going to give you the details and the prices of this in a few moments when we come to a stop. But before I do that, it's probably worth pointing out that whilst this isn't a £200,000 GT3 RS, it still feels very special. This is a car that's been designed to be used and used every single day. This is a car that you can drive to the office if you wanted to and commute every single day, or if you wanted to go on a weekend road trip to the Swiss Alps, well, you can do that as well. And you can have an amazing time whilst doing it. And haven't yet mentioned the most crucial and special thing about this particular Carrera T. You might have already noticed it though. This is a 7-speed manual transmission Carrera T. 7-speed, an actual manual gearbox with a clutch pedal. And that makes it pretty unique because go and find a GT3 RS with one of these. I think you might struggle. We have a collection of different driver modes in here, so I can toggle through them on our drive mode selector button here. We have everything from wet, which will reduce the power output, has moisture sensors at the front of the car so that can detect how wet the air might be and therefore what the risk of wheel slippage might be. Then we have a normal driving mode, which just puts everything in a comfortable mode, has things like start, stop for traffic. And then we have sport, which livens things up a bit, and then sport plus. Now sport plus is quite nice because that will firm up the suspension. It will open up the exhaust valves on the back and it will improve the throttle map so you get this. This is a turbocharged flat 6 and yet it sounds superb. Turbocharged engines don't tend to sound all that special. But yet somehow, Porsche have done something amazing and they've made it sound utterly fantastic. I'm not getting an awful lot of turbo noises, but I don't think that matters. I'm getting a really nice, raspy, that kind of bark that you expect to find in, erring on the side of caution here because I think a few people in the comments might argue with me, it sounds a bit like a GT3. So what is it that's making all that lovely noise? Well, it's a very special 3-litre flat 6, as you would expect to find in a Porsche 911. It is, of course, as I mentioned before, turbocharged, and that means it pushes out 385 brake horsepower and around 450 Newton meters of torque. That's plenty. Plenty for the road and plenty for the occasional bit of track day fun if you wish to do that as well. I guess I should mention some of the key things as well, which probably I don't need to explain because it should all be fairly obvious, but gearbox, superb. Clutch feel, superb. Brake feel, superb. The steering feels superb. And I know some people have moaned about 992 iteration steering because of the electronic edition. And shut up. Honestly, it's fine. This is the modern way now. All manufacturers are doing it, And in this, it feels great. Steering feels light. You can balance it all on the palm of your hands or through your fingertips. It feels absolutely fantastic. I can't find anything to complain about from a driver's point of view in this. I don't think, particularly if you are doing lots of road miles, you need much more in terms of power. It's all fantastic. It's a fantastic car. Now, the other perks with this being a Carrera T is you're able to get other things as well as a manual gearbox that you won't get in the very, very, very Billy Basic Carrera. Things like thinner glass at the back for a slightly reduced weight, and rear axle steering, which is an option that you can tick. It also has a lighter battery to make the handling even better and the car overall a little bit lighter. It also has the option of giving the staggered wheels, so this has got 21-inch rears and 20-inch fronts. I still have plenty of luxuries in here, like comfortable heated seats. I've got Apple CarPlay, I've got a lovely Bose sound system, optional extra as well, and I'll cover all the costs of these optional extras very, very shortly, but I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised to learn how much one of these things is in comparison to a £200,000 GT3 RS. Okay, so it's not a GT3 RS, I know. But let's be real here. Unless you live at the Nürburgring or around a sequence of de-restricted roads where there aren't a single person there that's going to be upset and complacent about hearing the sounds of a GT3 RS howling through first thing in the morning, then this is almost certainly the better option. But then there's more to it than that. Remember that little explainership thing I mentioned at the beginning of the video? Well, yeah, that comes into it as well. And with one of these, it gets a lot easier. So let me come to a stop and I'll explain a bit more. Now, the other thing that's quite good about this particular 911, the Carrera T, is you don't get any of the explainership drama. Nobody's going to be asking what the big thing is on the back, or why it has big gaping holes in the side, or why there's a climbing frame around the seats. This doesn't have any of that. It just looks like a 911. And the seats look like normal seats, and there is no climbing frame, and there is no weird big plank on the back. So these are all perks, surely. Now, I called this the basic 911, the Billy Basic model. Well, it's not strictly true. There is actually a lower spec model available below the Carrera T, and that's just called the Carrera. However, that one doesn't give you the option to have a few cool things that this one's got. For example, the big one is the 7-speed manual. You can't get that in the Carrera. That can only be found from Carrera T upwards. And then there's other things, like this particular car has lightened glass at the rear, lightened glass at the front. It's got things like a staggered wheel setup, 21 at the back, 20 at the front. Can't get that on the Carrera, making this one of the cheaper 911s that you can get, but also with some really nice trick parts. And on the subject of trick parts, I should probably give you a quick run through of some of the optional extras that this car has as well. And in all honesty, its overall price, bearing in mind we've got £200,000 to play with here. I'll get the options list here. So this one has got gloss black window trims. They come at a cost, £383. It also has rear axle steering to make it a bit more dynamic. That's going on down here. That is a cost, that's £2,361. It also has electric folding mirrors, that's an option at £276. We have a fire extinguisher right at the front of the passenger seat. That comes at a cost of £155. This one has the park assist system, which means you get the 360-degree cameras. You've got cameras under the mirrors, cameras on the front, cameras on the back, and what they do is they all stitch together. I'm sure you've seen this technology before, and make things like tight maneuvering and parking nice and easy. Comes with a cost of £1,399. £374. Then there's something called a light design package, and that is nothing to do with weight. It's actually interior light design, so you can have different colours and themes and that sort of nonsense. £407 for that. And then last but no means least, it has the lovely Bose speaker upgrade. So not quite the top tier Burmeister system, but it's got a lovely Bose system, which is beautiful. Price for that, £1,152. So that means this has a grand total of £7,938 worth of options. But how much is the car, I hear you ask? Well, before the options, £105,700. So we are almost half the price of our GT3 RS budget. But add on those options and we have a total price of this exact car, £113,638. Bargain. It's still a 911. It still drives brilliantly. It's still cool. It's half the price. So, let's summarise with this lovely Carrera T. We've got a car that is a little bit easier to live with, easier to get in and out of, seats that are a little bit more comfortable, an overall car that's a bit more practical and easy to live with, and it's half the price. Then, of course, there's other practicalities like back seats. Whilst this one doesn't have back seats, they are available on the Carrera T at a no-cost option. You could put them in, and therefore you could have a four-seater car. Now, admittedly, if you were to put the back seats in and you wanted to use them, you'd either want to be 5 years old or have no legs. But they're there as an option, and otherwise you might need a bit more space. Now let's do some calculations. I'll get my trusty calculator telephone to do some sums. We gave ourselves £200,000 for our GT3 RS budget. So let me put into my calculator £200,000, and then we're going to take away the £113,638, and that leaves us with £86,362. So let's put ourselves into a scenario where we might need a bit more space because we're not 5 or do have legs, and we have a surplus amount of money of £86,362. Well, what could we do with that, I wonder? Oh, I know. This is the Porsche Cayenne E-Hybrid. Need space? There's loads in here. You've got room quite easily for 4 very large adults, plus a boot full of kit. And being an E-Hybrid, this is a car that will get you where you need to go, both very quickly and very efficiently. Oh, and I'll add one more thing, comfortably as well. This thing is glorious. Oh, and guess how much it is? Yeah, £84,800. How convenient. So, E-Hybrid, what does that mean? I'll tell you. It basically means best of both worlds. You get a lovely 3-litre V6 up front, petrol powered, and a battery paired up with an electric motor. So that means you get approximately 380 miles of petrol range with a full tank, plus another 50 miles of EV range, and that is exclusive EV range. Now, given that it is a V6 and a little bit of an EV as well, don't be fooled into thinking because it's not the massive twin turbo powered V8 version that it's a slow car, because it's not. In fact, this thing's actually pretty quick. And if you're not driving in exclusively petrol or exclusively electricity, then you can combine the two. And in doing so, this thing becomes really impressive. 470 PS, that's 468-ish brake horsepower, is what you get when the electric motor is combined with the petrol motor. Meaning that when you do boot it, it goes really well. And this thing's also got multiple driver modes, so it's got normal driving mode, which will level out the suspension and be quite comfortable and soft and compliant, and then it has things like sport mode and sport plus, and that's where you get the really big power. It then also has another mode, which I'll show you very shortly. There's a lot of things that are very impressive about this. And it's not just the power and performance, there's also a lot of lovely tech. Things like lane assist, adaptive cruise control, heated steering wheel, heated seats, massaging seats. This thing has got a multi-choice, multi-function massage setting, and the seats themselves are actually adjustable 14 ways. I've also got not one, not two, but 3 screens up front here. So I've got a screen in front of me, which is my instrument cluster. I then have a center screen here, which is for things like the navigation system, audio settings, CarPlay, Android Auto, all of that sort of stuff. And then a third screen, which is actually for the front passenger. And there they can have access to their own menu settings. They can even scroll the internet. They can even play with audio settings and choose music that perhaps I wouldn't particularly like, but it's an impressive thing. And I guess actually you could say there are 2 additional screens, because there is a screen down here with all the different climate control settings with easy access buttons. Thank you, Porsche, for not hiding it away in the infotainment system. And there's another one back there as well. So the passengers in the rear seats can adjust their own heated seat elements, their own climate control, because this, of course, has 4-way climate control. Every single seat gets their own temperature, which is nice. Now, beyond all the tech and gadgetry and luxuries and driver conveniences and massage settings, there is, of course, one other big screaming element that comes with the Porsche Cayenne, and that is comfort and luxury. This is the largest car that Porsche make, and in doing so, it's probably the most comfortable as well. This is in the category of luxury SUV, along the lines of Bentley Bentayga, Range Rover, Discovery perhaps, and maybe even Cullinan. We're kind of getting there, it's certainly a bit cheaper. But this does luxury and comfort and convenience in a way that a lot of the other big luxury SUVs don't do, because it does feel genuinely sporty. It does feel genuinely engaging. If I put this thing into Sport Plus, I could be throwing it down this 60 mile per hour country lane and having quite a lot of fun. But then, of course, you switch it back to normal driving mode and it's really quite comfy and plush and quiet. And then there's one other luxurious thing that I've got in here. This has been equipped, it is an optional extra, it's been equipped with the Burmeister sound system, and let me tell you, it is glorious. I think Burmeister systems in cars are the best you can get. And if you think I'm wrong, then fight me in the comments. Now, this being a Cayenne means that it can do a lot of things that a 911 can't do, especially a 911 that costs £200,000 and is essentially a race car with number plates. I could, for example, go to my local supermarket and park it in the car park without any concerns that when I come out with my pint of milk, I'm likely to find somebody sat on the rear spoiler doing a photo shoot. It means I can also drive to and from the office every single day without any unwanted attention. Read into that however you'd like. And then there's one other thing that I couldn't do in a 911, and definitely not in a 911 costing £200,000, which is essentially a racing car with number plates for the road. And that's this. Let me just pop you into off-road mode and go down here. Yep, I am now green laning in my Porsche Cayenne, and it's pretty good. You definitely wouldn't want to be doing this in a GT3 RS. Enough mucking about, let's get back onto the road. Actually, before we get back on the road, I do have a confession to make. Okay, so the price, £84,000. There are a few options on this car, and I am going to mention them because I'm certain there will be somebody, at least one person in the comments that will say, hang on a minute, that's not standard and that's an option, and you're right. So let me quickly run through what the options are first, and you can pick and choose which ones you'd keep and which ones you'd lose. So this one, I've been raving about the colour, the Goodwood Green Metallic. It's gorgeous, but it comes at a cost of £7,536 if you want that particular paint. The wheels, they're upgraded, they're 21s, and they are £2,181. The two-tone leather that we've got in here, which is gorgeous, yeah, that's a cost, £3,027. Then we have the 14-way adjustable electric comfort seats. 14-way. You do pay a premium for that, £968. The fact that they're heated in the front and rear, that's an additional £338. The massage function, which I absolutely love, that's £1,425. The side window trims with the black in high gloss, you do have to pay for that. £269. That might actually be the cheapest option on the list. The panoramic roof, that's going to cost you £1,509. The roof rails in black, that's £453. The electronically extending tow bar system is £945. The rear axle steering, that's an option at £1,325. The adaptive air suspension, that's also an option at £1,760. The sport tail lights, finished in bright, on this particular car, £639. The high-definition matrix LED headlights are fantastic, but they're also quite expensive at £1,755. Then there's the thermally and noise-insulated glass. Keeps the temperature consistent, and they're double glazed, so it's nice and quiet. But they are an option at £1,287. The eucalyptus wood finish on the dashboard here, which I really like. This is an option, of course, that's £371. Then the multifunctional steering wheel with the shift paddles, that's a specified option at £209. Not finished yet. The head-up display, that's an option, £1,001. The lane change assist system, that's £639. The adaptive cruise control is £1,092. The 4-zone climate control is £639. And the air quality system, which purifies and monitors air quality in here, that is £329. And then there's more. There's the electric roll-up sunblinds in the back. Those are £509. And finally, the sound system, which is lovely. Burmeister. Sounds beautiful. At all frequencies, at all volumes, all types of music. Incredible. But you know what else is incredible? The price. £4,620. And that means that the total price for this Cayenne E-Hybrid, which has a on-the-road retail price of £84,800 before options, is actually £120,043. But you work out what you don't want, and I reckon, considering you are going to put options on your GT3 RS, it's still going to be quite good value. Plus the 911T. So, what would you pick? One £200,000 GT3 RS, or two for the price of one of which being a 911? I am genuinely stumped. I genuinely don't know which one I would pick. So, over to you in the comments. Let me know in the comments below and give me some reasoning and I'll reply. And don't worry, if you were hoping for a bit more of a detailed review of either the Cayenne E-Hybrid or the 911 Carrera T, I've got you covered. Head on over to the website, driven.site, where you'll see a full written review of both of these cars with some stunning photographs taken by Henry Faulkner-Smith. Before I go, I need to say a massive thank you to two people, Matt and Tony. They are the people that allowed me access to the GT3 RS that you saw at the beginning of this video. Surprise, surprise, Porsche GB, where we are right now, they don't have one on press fleet. They don't need one, because the minute they announce it, everyone buys them. And why wouldn't you? So Tony, who is the owner of that car, very kindly donated that to us for a couple of hours to do some filming. So a massive thank you to Tony and a massive thank you to Matt, who linked us together to make that happen. If you want to give either of those guys a follow, to give your appreciation and to see more of that amazing car, I've linked their Instagram handles in the top pinned comment below. For now, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you again very soon. Don't forget you can see everything else we do at driven.site, including our weekly podcasts. And if you're not subscribed already to the YouTube channel, hit the button. We've got loads more videos to come. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Cows!